gonna be here is here.
So I have an extra chair.
You've got 2 extra chairs unless Russ grabs that one.
It's a complicated game.
You can stay there,
Spread out
don't
here.
worry.
Okay,
Gary Levy's supposed to come at some point.
okay.
Are we gonna be on TV? Live right now? We're live on TV, everybody, so here we go.
Smile nice.
Good evening, it's May 14th, 2012. This is the Newmarket Budget Committee. And first item is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Just quick couple notes. This meeting, the minutes will be taken by Ellen, who I believe is upstairs with the council right now, and will come down when that's done. Or will be, not this Ellen, a different Ellen, a paid town staff person. So we don't have to worry about that. They'll be taken off the notes. So make sure you talk into the microphone so it gets recorded well. And we are live on TV as well. Judy Ryan is sick, Dana is sick, so they're both excused. And Councilor Levy will be here, assuming we're still here when their meeting is over upstairs. So our first item on the agenda might be difficult to complete because Ms. Laporto is not going to be here tonight. When the agenda was set, I did not know that, but she informed me late last week that she actually, when she talked to her husband, he reminded her that they had a 5:30 appointment in Beverly, Massachusetts for tonight, so she wouldn't be able to make it. But we did receive in the email today, and you have a printout of it, the actual versus budgeted for the year-to-date for the school district. And Joan indicated she'd be willing to come to the June meeting or whenever our next meeting is to answer questions in detail about this. So she's not, she's willing to do that, she just, tonight didn't work out. And it's different with the school district in the sense that any saved funds don't help like a fund balance, but they do reduce future appropriations, because I think this year there was we didn't do any of the supplemental funding thing. The divisionary, did we?
Oh, gosh.
I know there was a credit from last year's budget that got credited to the, as I
Yeah,
understand it,
well, what I was asking was, in the past, we did the 20% of any excess revenue over costs goes to the special education. I don't think we did any of those this year.
I thought we did
But-
some, but not all. I don't think we did the
How-
capital reserve, but I think we did others. But you know what? The years are kind of blending together.
Sorry, we're hearing static, that's why we're making funny faces. Is there, maybe what I could ask, if there's any reports that if this is not providing what you're looking for, I could report that to her and maybe we can get it through May at the next meeting, but this is the simplified summary versus the 45 pages of every line item. And I thought this was more appropriate, given that it's a bottom line is the issue, not necessarily, that they spent more money on books or on paper than what they estimated. Amy?
I had the following comments and/or questions. One is the first report that we got was, I believe, through end of March, and we just received the one through end of April. What I find easier to see on the shorter version is that the current year budgeted total is the same for both periods. She seems to be working continuously. I can make the jump from the end of March to end of April. My bigger question is, if all things were equal and expenditures were the same every month, each month would be 1/12. But obviously, the school year doesn't work like that. So at the end of March, the percent left, quote unquote, to expend or spend in the budget against it was 9.55. And at the end of April was 6.98. What do we think, is there a number for future, for projections for what is expected to be spent in May and June? Like, do we think we're going to come out at that budget number or below it, or, what's left to be spent, I think it would be what I'd be interested in. Not necessarily all the background that we get on the town side about where it was spent necessarily. I don't want to micromanage, but I'm interested to know, now we're at 6.98%, is that enough to get through May and June based on the school year?
Okay. Maybe a simpler question is, what level of excess funds do you anticipate having?
If any.
If any, yeah.
There you go.
And I think that it's very tight this year
I
from
am-
past discussions.
I am not going to get points for clarity this evening, so my
It's okay.
apologies.
Brian, can you or someone just go over the columns on this, just to make sure that,
Well, maybe Linda could, but I didn't have any discussion with Joan about this.
I
and-
have not yet either, but let me, hold on.
yeah, I'm not looking at the numbers as much as just an explanation for, I'm assuming current year budgeted means what the budget is, period expenditures.
I think the period it's going to be the same as the current year because the period is from the beginning of the year until the
So
end date.
the next two columns should be the same, which it looks like they are. And then encumbrances, I'm assuming that's money in the remainder of the $3 million difference that's already pledged to be used.
Right, which I'm assuming was mostly salary contract related.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
the remaining
If we're
million
on
is
track
what
so
makes
far.
the 6.8%,
Yeah.
6.98%.
Right.
And I know that they've also, I think they started doing purchase orders on the school level. So there's purchase orders are probably in the encumbrances as well.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay,
And you're,
I'm sorry, I'm Matthew Angel, I'm the town's finance director. I'm familiar with this particular software, so, the current year budget's what you guys appropriated.
Does this work, this software versus?
Yeah, this software works.
Can we have it on the town side?
no, they're actually, the school is transferring out of the software
They are.
to better
The
software.
period expenditures are for the, actually, she ran it from July to June, so you're right, it would be for the year. But if they ran it just for one particular month, it would just be for that 1 month, where the current year expenditures would be for the entire year. Okay? Now, encumbrances are just POs, only things that they have encumbered against their budget. Okay, where the remaining balance is your budget minus your current year expenditures minus your encumbrances.
They must have encumbered salaries then, because there's $883,000 in regular education programs.
They may,
Because they signed a contract in April of last year, or March of last year, so the money's committed.
but encumbering payroll is not GAAP, so, I'd give her a 50-50 chance of doing that.
Well, if it's not, then they're gonna be over budget seriously at the end of the year, so I'm hoping Sally's is.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, but the payroll for the next fiscal year wouldn't be in the encumbrances of this fiscal year. Yeah. So I'll ask her, confirm with her about the encumbrances, or make it known that we'd want her to help explain that.
Right, she sent a note of explanation with the March ones, which was great, and that made sense to me, but, again, to not get into micromanage what's in what thing or whatever, yeah, where does she expect to be?
But in general, encumbrances are money that's contractually obligated to pay, so that will definitely disappear
Spending that they know about,
Next.
right.
remaining months of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Okay.
And, great. So I'll make sure, share those 3 questions, plus she'll probably watch the beginning of this meeting to hear our discussion.
Brian, is it possible to just ask a few questions that maybe we can give her a month to prepare?
Sure.
I remember during the voting time, we didn't have a school contract. I don't know if there'd be any progress on that, but I'm just trying to think ahead that next year's budget doesn't have an increase for at least the union people in the school, which means the budget we're going to be working on more than likely will have potentially an increase if that contract is either resolved already or will be shortly. So that,
So let me correct you, that contract, we won't have any, the contract specifically has to go to the voters as a separate article next March. So the budget we will have will be the same salary figures unless teachers change, meaning they leave the district and we hire new teachers.
Right.
So,
Oh, the contract doesn't?
contract
I had
only-
the impression there weren't increases on the union side because there hadn't been a new contract in place
correct,
for the current
other
budget.
than if you change your educational status.
Okay, but when we go in next March, wouldn't there be something that we would be budgeting?
No, we wouldn't budget for it because they're budgeting the operating budget for the school as it is. The warrant article that would be voting on the contract would include the cost of the contract from over and above what is currently in place. That's where the change would take
Yeah,
place.
it's a completely separate warrant article.
Yeah, the contract is a separate warrant article.
Okay, effectively it would roll into a combined budget of what the salaries is, but you're saying it would be voted on as a separate warrant article.
And it would only take place if it passed. That's why it's not in the operating budget. That would be presented separately.
So the town actually votes whether it accepts the union contract or not, and if it doesn't,
It's the same situation.
Same as the
Or
police.
you could have you could have another vote if the voters allow for a revote, but if it doesn't pass, it is as it is now.
okay, thank you.
Any news that you can share about the union negotiations?
No.
Okay. That's a perfectly reasonable answer. But I'll note union status, and Joan can get the official line from the superintendent or the school board chair, which is fine. They are negotiations.
Right.
Anything else at this point? Okay, so now we can put aside the school items, and we do have a live body here from the finance department and the town side, Mr. Angel, and unfortunately, due to my Friday schedule, you didn't get this before I left for the day, and so it sat there until this morning, so then it was emailed out. So I think it would be best if, Matt, you provided a snapshot of the report and the key indicators there, and then we have any questions directed it to you. And we're looking at the revenue and expenditure report for the current budget year, and it's through April 30th of 2012. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. On the revenue one, which is the smaller one, and you have to understand too, I've been engaged in town council discussions over the past week, so my focus was not on these numbers. So the most important number that I'm looking at here on the revenue report would be the motor vehicle permit fees. And you can see through the end of April, it's $885,000 to date, which to the budget, the number that was used to set the tax rate remaining is about $159,000. So to me, that's kind of in line with what we expect for May and June, which we expect about $90,000 a month for motor vehicle permit fees. Okay, so it looks like our revenues are tracking okay. I'm also anticipating some other, the next important thing is the building permits down at the bottom. And you can see that we budgeted $20,000. However, to date, we've received $84,000. And
That was the mills in advance, it was a bulk of that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And we're expecting some other revenues to come in relating to the construction at the mills. Okay.
So, are you still on the revenue?
Yes.
Okay. Just don't skip over to expenditures. We'll give everybody a chance to ask questions about revenues, and then.
All right. The next one that's important to me are ambulance receipts. We budgeted $70,000, yet $122,000 have come in. We've exceeded the budget by $50,000. All right?
That's the fourth one down, 1031.
That's right here.
Yep.
What'd you say with the,
It's 52,000 higher than expected, than budgeted.
Yes, these reports are odd because it shows an excess revenue over budget as a negative number.
Negatives are good.
Yes, on this report, negatives are good.
Matt, there was a question that came up at the town council meeting. Somebody was addressing them in public, saying that we don't charge or necessarily charge for fire or EMS or ambulance services, or don't charge insurance companies for that. Where does this revenue come from?
The ambulance revenue comes from actually driving an ambulance out to someone's house for ambulance services. So, and they get billed after, so say for example, I have a heart attack, and the ambulance will show up and take me to a hospital, okay? Later on, the fire department will bill me for that service, okay? The $122,000 represents cash that we've collected against those billings. You have to understand, this is not an accrual basis, this is cash basis.
So it could include ones from past years.
Yes,
They're not necessarily billing the person that utilizes the service. They have coverage of the.
yes, that's
like
correct.
a group or their own personal.
Right,
The other thing is, I don't know whether this changed or not, but we had engaged someone when it was a little bit tougher to get payment for the ambulance.
yes,
That
Somewhere in
collection.
Massachusetts. Do we still have them?
I don't know if it's still being done.
you do,
That's the guy that does instead of us.
yes.
Okay.
And their name is Comstar.
Yeah,
And by the way, they're the most common ambulance billing
So they're
company
supposed to,
in the
like,
region.
You know, in most cases, they'll submit the bill to them.
Yes, and collect for us. We do pay them a fee, but it's
I
probably
understand
cheaper
that,
than having an employee on hand doing the same task.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
And do they keep the accounts receivable, and we have a report
do.
on that?
It's, they could give you an age receivable by patient, although it's not subject to right to know. But they can also give you the beginning balance of the AR, what service was provided, what was collected, what was written off, and an ending balance that equals that age receivable. And I've seen the reports, and if you look at the reports, you'll find that people typically pay somewhere between 90 and 120 days.
And this report doesn't cover any receivables on any of the billed items, does it? Is there?
This report does not include any billed
Is there,
items.
like, tax roll or for other billable things, is there a receivables report that's?
There is, but it doesn't get recorded until at the end of the year.
What about, don't we have an ambulance, I'm not gonna come up with the right word, but
Yes.
capital reserve, and the first certain amount of money goes into that?
Yeah, you have an ambulance revolving fund,
That's what it's called, thank you.
and $45,000 of this revenue goes into that. This $122,000 does not include the $45,000. We actually removed that earlier this year.
So really, we've received 167,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is really good news.
Well,
Not for the people,
But I mean,
for the town's finances it is, but not for the people that
well,
get
but
picked
yeah,
up by
but
the ambulance.
that's not what I meant. I just meant, we don't have, it's not like there was an oversight and there's still the money that has to go to that revolving fund. It's already
Right.
been taken care of.
That's correct.
And
but that's only ambulance, right? You're saying so that if fire support or EMS services or other things were provided?
anytime the ambulance goes out,
There's no bill, like if my house is burning and the fire trucks show up, there's no bill sent to the homeowner.
Or for EMS, the personnel
Oh, for EMS, that's included
in the ambulance?
in the ambulance.
right, and I remember a discussion when I was in the council about making sure we were charging, and when we hired the firefighters, I remember they're firefighter EMTs or paramedics, I can't remember exactly, so we were able to charge at a higher rate. So it helped offset the cost of having 2 full-time firefighters.
And I
I think
apologize
that's
for the
demonstrated
questions,
here.
but I'd just like to get the details of it.
No, it's okay, I'm just, hopefully that recollection's accurate, but I do believe that because the firefighters are also trained, we are able to charge at a higher rate. And I think the rates are basically the maximum that Medicare would reimburse you at, or Medicaid, because that way, you're likely to get the payment,
Okay.
someone. I could be wrong.
Out of that collection system, do you have an average in the last year, 2 or 3 years, other day, that what the delinquency thing would be? Should we have a right to ask that or know that?
I can certainly get you that information. I don't have it off the top of my head.
I mean, you know,
Typically, when I see the write-offs, they're not that often.
well, you would expect they wouldn't be that often.
What's
There's always
the,
extenuating circumstances, or you're gonna have something anyway.
Yeah.
But
do you know what
then again,
the,
there's people who like to make a game of it too.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean,
I think they would recognize that because they do this day in, day out.
well, I sympathize with anyone that doesn't have the coverage, but
Yes.
what recourse do we have once we go after dunning them a few times and, you know, everything's going all right with the payroll and so forth?
You know, I honestly don't have those,
Very risky
that
thing to
answer
say
for
on
the,
television, isn't it?
Well, and are we chasing $5,000, are we chasing $500,000? I mean, we have to.
Well, we don't know that.
We have
Yeah.
to figure out if it's
Well, he can find that out.
worth it to do it.
what to do it
Yeah, I
ourselves?
mean, you know, I don't
No,
want
no,
to see
no, no.
anybody, hopefully they could just push a button and we're not seeing anybody spend several thousand to find out that it's, you know, $500, I don't know.
I've run into this company multiple times. They're very reputable. They have what's called a SAS 70 audit, which is not typical. Most companies are not familiar with that. And basically, it's an audit of their internal controls to make sure that they're billing correctly, that they're collecting correctly, that they're following the right protocol for writing off. So you're dealing with a highly reputable company.
Right.
I only asked for the sake of the figures. I wasn't trying to see, you know, how
that's fine.
effective they are with the, okay? Because I remember when we didn't have them. And
excuse me.
I believe at the time that we hired them, it was much smoother working in every respect, that's all.
Yeah.
Only reason, I'm not trying to say, let's get 99% instead of 92.
No, but they're good numbers to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what the outstanding receivables are?
No, I don't.
That
can get
that
that
might
for
be
you.
interesting to know, you
Yeah.
know, for a reasonable, not like, you know, for reasonable periods of time.
That's one of the issues. I don't know where else we have receivables. Obviously, we have tax receivables. We may have other ones as well. It would just be getting a report to let us know where we have receivables and whether they're aging, may be something useful. Matt, when you said it's not in the right to know, whose right to know? We provide an ambulance service. We send the information to this company who does the billing.
There's one report that lists out everyone's names,
Oh, okay.
okay, and you're starting to run into HIPAA laws.
No,
And-
but an aged receivable without names on it is something that the town can access from the company or we
Yes.
can see, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, Roseanne.
Would, the sale of, I see down here, sale of municipal property. When we, got the money for, I don't know if it happened in this fiscal year or last, when we got the money from the Eagles, when Chimberg paid us for that property, would that show here?
I'm not familiar with that sale,
I'm not even
so I
sure
can
if
put
it
that
was-
down on my list.
If this was fiscal this year, and I don't know if they've finalized the gas station as well.
Are those town properties that they would show?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, the town would be buying them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were in the downtown TIF and funded by the downtown TIF.
The
So-
downtown,
TIF.
no, I don't,
Oh, yeah.
They're in the
Yes, they
district.
were.
oh, I know they were in the district, but I think,
The funds were from the district.
Funds were from the TIF district.
I thought we just paid that. So the purchase dollars for the Eagles and the gas station came from TIF funds?
That's my understanding.
And those are now town properties.
They're TIF district
They were
properties.
Well,
TIF
they
district,
would be
which
town
became town
properties.
properties and then
Which was
sold to
sold 'cause
Chimberg.
they moved.
I'm just saying that's where I think the funds were
Could
from.
you check
Whether
to
that makes a
see-
difference where they show up, I don't know.
Could you check that to see? That would be a question I would like to know.
This is a purchase of properties?
If the
No, the
Eagles
sale.
building downtown and the gas station was purchased by the town with TIF funds,
Yeah.
and if so, when Chinburg finally made the purchase of those buildings and paid us, where would that show up and where would that money go to? Would that go back to the TIF funds?
Well, I guess it depends upon how the TIF was set up. You know, if the TIF vanishes, yeah, I automatically would go to the general fund. But I'd actually have to go back and look at the article in what it says about the sale of property used to purchase TIF district, with TIF district funds. But it still would make sense that it would go to the general fund because it was purchased through taxation. Well, dollars raised through taxation, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could find that out, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Jack?
Yeah, I wasn't, I didn't hear anything about the gas station. You're talking about Dougal Station?
No, Riverdale.
Well, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That,
We
yeah,
Showing my
we own
age.
that- We own that, and they're paying us rent. And the same thing was true with the Eagles. We owned it, and they were paying us rent.
I know that, I can understand the Eagles, but I just thought that it was just a private
Private to
situation
private.
between private to private on the other
That's what
side
I
of the
thought.
street. And I don't think that was, even
Not
with
the gas
boundary lines,
station?
I don't think that was in the TIF district. So I
thought
don't
it-
know where you're coming from with that one.
No, if I remember correctly, they were paying us, the gas station was paying us rent. They had a lease
What's
with
the name of
us.
the present owners? Wouldn't take much to find out if somebody had enough gas to get to Brentwood. Anyway, I just want to clarify. No big deal.
Russ?
Again, understanding the form, the estimated revenue is in theory the budget.
Yes.
Okay. And the zero with real estate taxes is because, I'm not, it's
No,
just because it's zero, and it shouldn't be. Okay.
Well, for municipalities that I've seen throughout New Hampshire, most of them don't even have an estimated revenue in that column,
Frightening.
okay? The next step up, the numbers here in this column, in the estimated revenue column, equal what goes on the MS4 form that's used to reduce the tax rate, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm not used to reduce the tax rate, that's incorrect. That's used to calculate your tax rate.
Right.
You take your appropriations minus your revenues on the MS4, the remainder has to be raised through taxation.
Okay, so if we look at the total on the second page, we know it doesn't include real estate taxes. What you're saying is all other sources of revenue that are appearing here in the budget column are about 2.2 million.
Yeah,
And that's what the budget is, ex real estate taxes. And
yes,
that's also the budget that you initially found about a $400,000 or $500,000 shortfall.
yeah, there's some mistakes in the revenue side, and there's some, specifically, the ambulance or dispatch receipts on the second page, third item down, there's $125,000 in there.
Right, okay, but if our budget, regardless of whether it was right or not, for non-tax revenues was 2.2 million,
Yes,
and that's what we set, right?
that's what we use to set the tax rate.
And
It's not entirely accurate either.
if I look at the fourth column, which is showing a negative 18.6 million, and I offset that for the 18.8 million in taxes, that's a negative. There's about a $250,000 or $200,000 gap.
Yeah.
I guess that's my question is, even though it may not be the way we want to see it, is the gap around 200,000 at the moment, year to date?
It looks like, 120.
No, so he's saying if you take that number.
I
120?
hate doing numbers off the top of my head like this. I like to have my 10 key. I like it
Right.
attached to my
But
hand.
is it sort of fair to say that we have 120,000 remaining gap to the end of the fiscal year in revenue at the moment? And that may be
It
filled in
looks
the
like-
next 2 months?
It's going to most certainly be filled, I would think, because the motor vehicle receipts are almost that much.
Right, and I'm just trying to put the pieces, and so if we had a $400,000 or $500,000 gap, and then because of good news in other places, we only have a gap of 150, and we have 3 months left in the fiscal year?
It looks like you've exceeded your revenues, the way I'm reading this report.
Yeah.
I just want to know what the gap is or not.
Yeah.
Roseanne, did you bring your calculator?
I have one.
Oh,
The difference is about 120,000, that's right.
Yeah.
It's saying we've gained revenue 120,000
25.
less than we budgeted of the 2.2 million. And we still have a few months to go, so I don't want to walk away saying there's no longer really a revenue gap unless it's true.
No, I mean, there are other items in there other than the 125,000. And,
But they're offset by other numbers.
yes, they are. And you can see, for example,
And we
like,
get to keep that other revenue. I mean, we're not giving
yeah,
it.
it goes to the general fund's unreserved fund balance. You have to understand, both these reports only represent just the general fund. So whatever you see on these two reports is going to affect the unreserved fund balance of the general fund,
Okay.
okay?
And right now, it looks like it's better than we thought it was on the fund.
Yeah, the revenues, I'm comfortable with the revenues. I wouldn't want to say they're better. They're coming in, I'm hoping that we end up the year in a positive scenario than a negative one.
Any more questions on the revenue report? All right, thank you. Let's go on to the expense report, which says expenditure report, current year only at the top.
Yep, again, these are,
This is every line of the budget.
yeah, this is every line in the budget. I'm in the process of going and sitting down with every department. However, I've been, again, steered away from performing that task. So I can't speak from current memory of what the numbers are on here. I just want to point out that in the last meeting, one of you asked to have some of the budget numbers reflect, say, for example, on the revenue side, you wanted the tax revenue added in there. And then on the expenditure side, you wanted at the back of the report, the school expenditures for the budget added in there as well. Quite frankly, we haven't had the time to enter those in there. So those are the only things that you have to be aware of.
One of the things I thought we asked for, and I'm not sure that was done or could be done, was the tasks that the town council or Ed and you put on the expense savings that you've asked the department heads, et cetera, to save. That's not still on these sheets though, right?
No, it's not. No.
Okay. Is there a number for that currently?
You know, I want to sit down with the departments and make sure that that number is a firm number, because really, we're hitting the year end. Okay, yeah. And there are going to be some purchases that need to be made in order to keep operations going. So I want to make sure that what was presented before is still a solid number.
And that was in the $300,000 to $400,000
Yes,
range, if I
that's
remember?
correct. That's correct.
Right, is that
But-
this report, budget savings since revenue shortfall dated April 4th?
You'd
As
have
a-
to show it to me.
As 100.
That's it.
Well, wait, you got a different.
Well, both of them are the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, there's 105,000 that has been encumbered.
No, that was frozen through council order.
Right. And then there's another 291 that
Two-page-
I wrote, not frozen, but not intending to
handwritten
spend.
thing?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what you're trying to nail down, is if
Make
that's
sure
still
that those
accurate.
are, I wasn't involved with the 290. I want to make sure that
Brian, is
those
that in
are.
this package?
We got
Or-
that, no, we got that the last.
We got the handwritten, semi-handwritten sheet.
No, we got this whole packet from Matt.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I got that.
Someone had requested account numbers, so I put account numbers to one of
Okay, I
the
didn't-
reports.
I don't print out every email, sorry. So I didn't realize that.
So when is the council going to finalize this number, do you know?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I bet you it's going to be right at the end of the year, because they've got some other hot button topics right now.
Okay.
So putting aside the other hot topics, if you're not holding you to it, if the best guess is that the revenue shortfall that we thought we had may have disappeared because we did better in other categories, so we may end up actually showing a revenue surplus. Not holding you to it, but it's better than a $400,000 gap. And the 385, or whatever the budget task was put in, is real, then putting aside other issues we don't know about at the moment, we could end up with a positive contribution to fund balance of $400,000 to $500,000?
Your logic seems accurate.
Thank you. I'll quit there. Thank you, Brian. I'm retiring.
Okay. Any more questions about the expenditure report and any more procrastinate? I can't think of the word. Roseanne?
I just had a question on the Public Works for overtime.
What page are you on and what line?
We're on page 8, 3 from the bottom.
Page 8, 3 from the bottom, overtime. Yep.
So we've spent 27,000 and we were budgeted for 65. With the winter that we had, you would expect that overtime not to be as high as it is.
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Do you know if in this overtime year-to-date expense, if on-call time for the town employees, if that's included in that?
That's a good question, and I can't answer that right now.
Okay.
I'll put that on my list.
And what about comp time that employees get? They can accumulate, I believe, 39 hours a year. Once they get to 40, they have to trade that in. Is there any list of comp time available to all town employees? Because if they accumulate a lot, we could have
Yes.
a lot of checks to write out at the end of the fiscal year or whenever their 40th hour comes up.
Yes.
So.
There is a list.
Okay.
What I've been seeing on the payroll reports are employees tending to use it for time off rather than
could
getting
we-
paid out.
Okay, and there is a list that you could see that what comp time is, how many hours there are in comp time for the,
I've been told there is. I actually have not seen it.
okay.
Who keeps that list?
Payroll. So, I mean, it's within I can access that.
So I would like to come up and see that if I could.
See the list?
Yes, please. With the hours that they have coming to them, that would be great. Thanks.
So what line item is that in this?
That was on page 8, the third from the bottom.
That's overtime, comp time is in.
We don't know if comp time's in there. That's
Yeah,
what
I don't know if
happens.
comp time is in there. Or
I don't
if-
think it would be, because you can't, I don't
No, comp
think,
time's
Not the same
included in the
thing.
regular
right,
salary
you
line
can't take
item.
comp time to create overtime, I don't think, right?
No.
The point of it is to, I think, to save the town money by providing the employee with the flexibility of taking time off.
Yes,
You'd have to see how the codes are set up to see where it's charged to,
okay.
okay? Since I
Okay.
didn't set up that part of the system, I can't speak to
But
that.
you'll get the answer.
Now, I'm sorry, Roseanne, you asked a question about what was included in overtime. What was that specifically again?
Was on-call
On call.
included in,
All right.
so when we pay comp time out, what is that done? Is that done under
I,
Public Works
okay,
Administration
my
overtime?
gut tells me that it would be included in their full-time salary line.
Okay.
But that's something that would have to be
Okay.
verified.
All righty.
Okay.
Russ?
Looking at the last page where it totals,
Yeah.
and if I'm understanding it, our budget's $6,000,008, and it's suggesting we've spent $19 million.
Yep.
Okay, is there a bad number here somewhere?
No. All right. It includes county, school, and, well, county and school. This is stylistic, okay?
Yeah, it's on, it's on page three from the back.
Yes.
It says, pay to others, library, solid waste, school, county. So if you want to do your backwards math, the two lines are the school and county, I believe.
Yeah, but I think he's also alluding, why is it so great, it's so much greater than the 6 million?
Well, because the
Well,
school
because
budget.
the school's
and
12
the-
million.
Yeah, well, the way this chart of accounts was set up is so that it can easily do the state reports. And the state report includes school and county as an expenditure from the general fund, all right? when you do the audit report, those numbers get netted against tax revenue. So that $18 million of tax revenue would go to like 6.5.
Yeah, it's Watergate follow the cash, but I'm crying inside because it's so difficult to do sometimes, but.
But that's the changing your accounting system and how you want to handle it is stylistic.
Now, is Brian correct, by the way, that it's only school and county are the only two ones that would be the subtraction?
No, you also have to subtract out the council orders where they use capital reserve funds.
Oh, okay.
So all the council votes are cap reserves?
Go to page 15.
Okay,
Kind of halfway down, you can see capital reserve. It says fire department, public works, police vehicles, library, and so on.
right.
Those expenditures would equate to a specific council order. I believe those are the ones.
So up to McAllen.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, those go to the capital reserve.
I think it's the next page
I hate this
where
report.
it says council votes.
Yes, I'm sorry, the next page.
Page 16, it's
16.
about a third of the way down
Right.
after police contract.
All the council votes are ones that are out of the CIP, not out of an additional
makes sense.
operating expense.
Correct,
Yeah, these are all specific resolutions
yes,
to use existing
Okay,
funds. in
so
yes.
to do, as you say, the negative math, those two things for school and county, and then anything that says council vote, if you back that out, then that 19 million we spent to date goes down a lot.
Yeah,
Okay. Do we know what that should be the place we're hoping to save 300 to 400 at the end of the year?
yes.
Okay.
The amount of money left for the town to spend is less than $949,000. It's that number minus the council votes.
Now,
Which, wouldn't you like to get a report that kind of says that,
Yeah.
eventually? And I know
this
Matt
is
would
not
too.
how I would operate
Yeah,
this
I know,
system.
I know.
It is, I am agreeing
There's no
with you that
reflection
it
on
is,
you.
that it is, it could be better.
Again, you didn't like it last time, but export it to Excel and cut out those lines and have them in the second page of the report. It says, these items are typically reported, but to give you a sense of the town's actual costs.
You know, if you want, I can do that
You can send it
for
to me
you.
and I'll do it for you.
If you want, I'll do that for you, but I still would like to give you this in the
Yeah, you
background
can
so
get-
you know.
Or you can say, and I took these items out and separately list them.
Yeah,
'Cause that-
I'd love it to tie.
Because I don't want to have this discussion every month.
Okay,
That's all.
all right, I'll do an Excel report. I'll try to tie it back so that I'm pulling out all
Right,
this
and
junk.
I realize you don't want to do an Excel report and inadvertently make a mistake or,
Yes.
and then suddenly we're all like, oh, you know.
Yeah, because it's manual and, you
Yeah,
know.
I have to do reporting to my board, and I have to do an export because I can't get QuickBooks to give me what they want.
Yeah,
So now I'm asking you to do that
okay.
because we can't have this discussion every month about the reports. Although eventually I think we'll realize it.
Or a summary, which I'm hoping the town council is going to get, that says there's 15 issues on the table, there's the revenue gap, where are we, there's the expense, how much have we saved, and just have those, we want to build the bridge over the river 108, and we have this gap of something in the downtown tip. There's like 15 or 20 numbers that are sort of important at the moment. If those were all on one page and it was reported, and I'm not suggesting you have all those at the moment, but just saying, here's where we were last month on those 15, here's where we are this month on those 15, would make a one-pager pretty easy to go through, and then people could dig down further if they wanted to.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
I think
great
the
Yeah,
idea.
because I mean,
council's
I think that's a good idea because I don't feel like I need this every month,
Okay,
but I know members of the committee have asked for it.
all right.
I'm more interested in the bottom line because I can't tell you not to spend this line item. That's the council's vote
Yeah.
upstairs.
Well, and we don't have that one-pager.
Right.
That's
And
why we're
we
asking.
understand why, because you've been dealing with other issues.
Well, then, why don't we just have like an email discussion of what you would like included in it, and I'll try to come back with something for you.
Okay.
Well,
We've
We're
created.
fine with the town, if the town council has a draft on what they're looking for, I don't know if there's
You know
anything we'd add or subtract to that.
I have been thinking about what is good information to send out of the office to make it really easy, okay? I'd be glad to hear any suggestions of summarizing data to make it easier for the,
What we've done is, and I copied it from somebody else, it was like, it's a financial snapshot, it's one page. It has, you know, operating budget, what was budgeted and what has been spent. The council might want it by department, but that would be very summary. And then, you know,
Revenues.
what the restrictions on, you know, how much the council has decided to hold back on spending, the things that are in limbo, and then these other questions. I mean, that, and then,
I'm hoping the town council will do it, but if not, if we can spend some of our time over the next month or so trying to figure out things we like as a budget committee, then.
you know, and then the current fund balance, projected fund balance, or
You know,
question mark. And that
your
line.
current fund balance looks unreasonably high right now, so,
Right.
because you're only halfway through the year.
You'll have to put
It's at
an
It's at
asterisk.
1.4 million, so that doesn't include what may happen in the next couple of weeks.
And when you say fund balance, you're teaching me new words, which
Yes.
drives me insane, but that, there's two parts of that balance. There's the unencumbered general fund balance and the encumbered
Right.
general fund balance. So,
Fund balance is it encompasses multiple accounts, okay? If you were to look at a commercial company, it would be stockholders' equity, and under stockholders' equity, you'd have paid-in capital, common stock, retained earnings, okay? In municipal government, fund balance means reserve for encumbrances, which are your POs. Unreserved fund balance, which is your, what's not being restricted or reserved for other spending, okay? And then from there, you'll have reserves, okay? Right now, you have a $1.3 million reserve for, because you didn't, well, not you, the town did not issue a bond for the DPW garage, okay?
okay,
So, now when the net income closes into unreserved fund balance, and from there, it gets moved up or down to reserve for encumbrances or to other reserves.
okay, but from a simplistic, maybe not the right accounting thing in municipal accounting, we've been told that there's a resolution in the town that requires us to have 12 to 16%, what I would call operating savings or operating reserve, cash for a rainy day. And I equated that, probably wrongly, to that's sort of like the general fund. when we
No,
say
it is to the general fund.
Ooh, okay. And then, is it the gross balance of the general fund of encumbered plus unencumbered goes against the 12 to 16? Or
No.
it's not so fast, it's just the unencumbered.
Yes.
Unencumbered, unrestricted, which is your unreserved fund balance.
So if you said the general fund balance was $1.4 million?
What I said is the unreserved fund balance is $1.4 million.
Okay. Gotcha. So I just, that's all, and when I hear general fund, is general fund equal to unreserved fund balance in normal lingo? Or do we always have to ask the question, is that the gross balance or just the unencumbered?
When I start spewing numbers for fund balance, I mean unreserved fund balance.
Okay.
Because I don't want to confuse you with reservations of it.
It's the free cash that we can use to actually.
That's a Massachusetts term, by the way,
Free cash?
free cash.
It is not free cash. Someone has paid it to us.
It's live free or
Most
die
likely us.
cash.
Yeah, and that is, but if you use the Massachusetts terminology, if you understand it, unreserved fund balance is the same,
Available cash.
but it's not,
Do I
cash
understand-
doesn't mean unreserved fund balance,
That's right.
okay?
So if I understand it correctly, we have a general fund, which is like my savings account. And if I have 15 grand in there, but I have a bill coming in for 10,000, the unencumbered bit, the only amount that I can really spend that I haven't already is $5,000.
Yes,
Yes.
A rose is a rose.
So we
is a
could have a
rose.
$300 billion fund balance, but only $1.4 million is available that's unencumbered.
Yeah, it has to relate to something, because by itself, it doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are you Ellen? Oh, hello.
Hi, Ellen.
This is our recording secretary, I believe.
Matt, I have one other question,
Yep.
if I could. On page 16, and it follows with the capital reserve, CIP, whatever, if I understand this correctly, first item, just for giggles, the Cap Reserve Veterans Memorial Trust has a year-to-date expenditure of $14,000. Is that was that actually a check written to something, or does that really mean that $14,000 was transferred into the capital reserve fund for the Veterans Memorial Trust?
Wait a minute. What page again?
16.
First line.
First line. The town appropriated $14,000, and we have physically wrote a check to the trustees of trust funds for
Okay,
$14,000.
so it's to fund the capital reserve fund for said,
Yes.
okay,
So if the trustees were to give you a report, it would show a revenue of
okay.
$14,000.
But it doesn't mean they ran out and got a memorial, whatever. The expenditure is not there. This is
No.
funding the capital reserve.
If you wanted to try to match up the expenditure, you would have to see the council votes down below.
Yep, gotcha. Thank you.
But that comes out of the operating budget, so part of the operating budget was to fund $14,000 into
The capital reserve.
the capital reserve for the cemetery.
And a lot of people call the capital reserve CIP funds.
Yep.
Okay,
Because that was part of the CIP. Yep.
yes.
Any more questions on this?
Just sounds more hopeful than it was a month or two ago, but the jury's still out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still out, and I'm hopeful.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Matt, for
Thank you.
coming and providing the reports. Roseanne, here's your moment.
Okay.
Look, this is possible training by local government center on budget committee responsibilities.
Yeah, they do have two seminars coming up. One is September 18th, and one is September 20th. They're not quite sure. She believes that one will be at the Radisson in Manchester, and they start at 9 a.m. and they go all day. They do have a legal service attorneys that do go on the road and will go to different towns. You have to have at least a minimum of 20 people to attend. And they also have a blackout of a month prior to the regularly scheduled meetings in September. They have a blackout to do these on-the-road seminars a month prior to and a month after the scheduled. And if you decide to do something like that, you're only going to have the first half of what you would have gotten for a seminar, only half the seminar that you would have gotten if you went in September. And the budget book for 2012 would also not be available if we had it earlier. And that's completed and ready for distribution at the time of the September. They do have usually sometimes three. The first half would be the budget half, and the second part of the seminar, they're thinking of maybe Terry Knowles, the Attorney General for Funds and Gifts and Trust, and they're not sure what they're going to have for the third portion of it. So I kind of think that, for myself anyway, that probably I would rather have the book and go for the complete day to have it as opposed to having just half the seminar. And I'm not sure if we book an on-the-road service attorney to come to the town, if that would exclude us. I didn't ask her if that would exclude us from being able to attend the full seminar if we felt we wanted to do that as well.
I can't imagine it would, because they'll take our money.
That's September, but
Yes, it's September 18th and September 20th.
Is it the same seminar being held both days?
I believe it is, yeah.
Yes.
and that's in Concord? or-
One of them
She
usually is
believes-
Manchester or Bedford.
Yeah,
Where it's been in the past.
she believes one's going to be at the Manchester,
18th and 20th.
the Radisson Hotel in Manchester.
So,
September 18th, I'm not sure what day of the week that is.
well, I kind of agree that the September is plenty soon enough before the budget process starts and the new, because they are tweaking state laws left and right, so
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if this changes. It would be good to have the most current information in a format that we can understand. But if the committee feels differently, the town can look into trying to find, we'd have to basically get all of us, the whole council and the entire school board to get over 20, which seems difficult.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the school would actually be interested in the town side of the finances and.
Not 2 days in a row.
No.
Well, but
It's on a Tuesday and
it does
one on a
relate to
Thursday.
schools.
18th and 20th.
Anybody feel differently, or should we just make sure that we share with you the schedule when it comes out from them?
I think just,
Okay.
Training.
All right, so I'll make sure that when I get an email, I get these monthly emails from them that talks about that, or when the town gets it, I'm sure the town administrator will share it. And Roseanne, thank you for calling them and getting that detail.
okay.
Discussion of budget committee responsibilities. I believe that the group had left indicating they wanted to read the materials that had the charter and the 2011 version of this budget booklet, but I don't know if we want to do that discussion or wait till after the seminars or what, but I'll leave it up to you all.
From just a couple things to, the details sometimes confuse me completely, so I'm just trying to do the high level. But it seems we're the ones that actually make a recommendation to the voters of what the budget is. And we're supplied what both the school system and the town would like to see as their budget. We get in a dialogue, but in the final analysis, it's our recommendation to the town for the budget.
It's our proposed budget, and the committee makes a recommendation on it, yes.
And is it just the operating budget, or do other departments or areas like the CIP, is that anything that the budget, I know we have a representative that is on the CIP committee, but is there any responsibility of the budget committee to look at CIP plans, revenues, and expenses?
The CIP is a component of the operating budget of the town side. So it is, we ultimately will, within our budget, fund at whatever level the budget committee thinks is appropriate, the CIP.
That's new money going in,
Yes.
but the balances
We don't have-
themselves
It's the council's
and
responsibility.
how it's spent is up to the town council.
Or whoever is the agent to expend, which is usually designated when the article is established. It's usually the town council. Sometimes it might be like, it's almost always town council. Sometimes it could be the town meeting, but I don't think we have any articles like that.
Okay, but that's not a plan that somebody presents to us saying, here's what we want to spend out of the CIP. Do you have any input, budget committee? We just
Well,
get
the-
involved in the new money going in?
No, the CIP committee that Judy is represented to and Roseanne's the secondary or alternate, I guess, they, their plan is not just the requested level of contribution for the year that we'd be working on, but also it forecasts out when expenditures would be made.
Okay.
They're not a rule, but it's a guide. The council ultimately decides. We don't have any input on the actual proposed expenditures in a particular year.
But we'll see those
We'll
during
see,
the
but we'll see
process.
what the CIP was anticipating or using as a guide. And we can judge whether it's realistic or fair or necessary.
And I'm learning little pieces as I go along, but the TIFs, which I know have been a lot of discussion over the past bunch of months, is the TIFs as a function of the town, does any of that come through, or should the budget committee be looking at any of that, or is that independent?
I
Couldn't see that in reading this stuff, it didn't really.
I feel like I knew the answer to that, but I'm not going to speculate. And I believe that we learned in the last 5 years that the operating budget needs to include proposed expenditures from either of the TIFs.
Okay, so
They
an
started
operating
doing
budget
that-
from the TIFs.
And they started doing that when Don was here. We started doing that. So, meaning, if the downtown TIF was still in existence, and in the budget year that we're coming up on, they wanted to spend $250,000 to put up new lights and a bridge, that would need to be in the operating budget, in the TIF district portion. and the revenue from that would be from the TIF district, but it would still be an expenditure, so that it should be in the budget, which ultimately we have to put forward.
Okay.
I
so-
believe, but we might want to get that question run by somebody that's an attorney,
Yeah,
given the
but in
complexity
theory,
of the TIF
if
fund.
there's an expense, whether it goes into SIP, or it's the TIF, or it's the operating budget of the school, or those are the things that we're involved in at least being aware of, if not recommending, and there could be some gray zones, like the TIF.
Yes.
Is there any other weird place that I haven't figured out I should ask a question on yet?
Well, there's other people in this committee that have been on this committee for a long time, or in town government for a while, so maybe there's some other areas that I'm missing, but
So far, that's about it. Okay.
that sounds,
TIF, SIP, school operating.
are there any other
town
kind of
operating.
unusual areas that,
And SIP is really in the town budget,
that,
you know, it's a subset of that.
that we need to, that he wants to know about, that, I'm not quite sure what the question is, but,
It's what question didn't I ask that I should have? That's the
you know, which exactly, I don't know.
Why don't you have the answer to that? Can I ask a general question?
Sure.
And I should know all this off the top of my head, but I just had a long day. And maybe for the public's knowledge, how many CIP accounts do we have in the town? Just ballpark.
So I think what you're asking is how many specific capital reserves there are?
Yeah.
I'd say between 20 and 30, but
And they're, and,
if someone has the,
I have somewhere.
you would need to see the CIP plan to have a sense of that.
the reason I'm asking, and I'm just, I was thinking about it over the weekend. And I
Actually,
I don't know municipal law to this, you know, right now, to the degree of being able to answer the question, so. How long has the town been doing CIP, Brian? Because I get the impression it was the last
Decades.
decade or so, or is it decades,
decades.
plural?
Yeah.
Is it?
So,
Because what I was getting at was, let's say all the CIP funds, just for sake of my question.
28, 29, depending on.
Okay.
Veteran fund
Let's
seems
say
to be
they
different.
have, I'm just using a fictitious number, $1 million in them, okay? Is there a way that we could have money put aside in a general CIP fund that was not only specific, with respect to water and sewer, I understand that that's gonna be absolutely independent, because the ratepayers are paying for it, et cetera. I'm talking more like in the general areas, whether it's, you know, vehicles for DPW or police or whatever, I'm just using that because they come to mind. Is it legitimate to ask the question, instead of having that money specifically targeted in those areas, to have more of a general CIP fund based on a need-only basis? And I'm using this as a complete hypothetical. If someone has, out of that million, $100,000 in their CIP, someone may say, you know, I need X, Y, Z. And sometimes you ask a question, I've experienced this, what do you need? And they say, well, I need this vehicle. And then you say, do you need it? And some of the answers over the last year I've received is, well, it's in the CIP. And that leads to the question is, do we actually have to have it? Is it imperative? Or is it just money that's in the CIP that if you don't use it, it's going to look like, why is it there? So I just figured I'd throw it out there because I'm not necessarily saying reduce the overall CIP budget. And if I was going to use a tangible example instead of hypotheticals, in my business, I have a warehouse, I have a sales floor, I have different areas. I don't have CIP funds for the warehouse, for a truck, or for the roof of the warehouse, or for the store, or for displays. I have a fund that I keep for improving the store and, you know, a fund that I need to make repairs, et cetera. If I have a fork truck go, I have to deal with it. So I don't say, well, I don't have enough money in the, you know, warehouse CIP fund. I say, I got to get a truck. And if my truck is fine and the roof is leaking in the store, I don't say, well, I don't have money in the CIP fund for the roof. I have a general overall dollar amount that I use when I need to use it. And I was just, I've been thinking about this over the weekend, and I was just thought I'd put it out there, because I don't know if it's a realistic question, if it's a logical question. But I think sometimes some of the CIP, and I don't know why I got the impression, but in the past, I thought the CIP got ratcheted up a little bit more in the last decade or so. Maybe I'm way off on that. I just don't have enough of the history.
Okay, so
So anyway, that's my question.
I'll give you my perspective. The CIP probably became more used in the last 15 to 20 years. Capital reserves have been around for decades. So that's just to clarify. So we have warrant articles that establish a capital reserve from the 70s for like a fire truck.
Yeah.
Now they get rolled into the CIP plan. CIP plan is required by state law as a component of good planning. That's why the planning board has jurisdiction over it and as part of the budget process. I'm not sure state law would allow you to have one that is as vague as you're suggesting. And I'm not sure the voters would like it either. The difference between how you run a business and a town is that you don't ask your employees or your customers for approval to set aside money. It's your decision as the business owner. We have to ask voters to take money now and set it aside for a future purpose. And I think state law requires, or good practice requires it to have a level of specificity so that voters know what they're putting money aside for. And that's why you'll see the articles that establish the capital reserve funds are pretty specific, meaning like fire department vehicles, but not just vehicles for the town, or not just for future capital purchases. I'm not sure that that's allowed. I think it needs to have a level of specificity that is, might be more so than that generality. But that's a good question.
It has to be one extreme to the other, and the reason I'm really asking, and just for sake of making a tangible example, you know, the water fund balance right now is 960. You know, obviously the CIP has 360 in it. Some of the funds, as I've looked at them, need more. Some of them don't have enough, et cetera. So have more than they need. So I don't know. I just figured maybe we don't need 28. You know, maybe
Well,
we need.
and last year,
I don't know.
no, I don't mean to interrupt you, and then Jack wants to say something. But last year, the budget committee recommended, and the council agreed to eliminate 4 or 5 that were small. And you know, it's entirely appropriate that the council ask the hard questions like, what is this for? Do we really need it? And if not, if you can hold off the vehicle for another couple of years, or you decide it doesn't need to be replaced, we don't really have any that are specifically to one vehicle, because that would be problematic. It would be, if you say we need to buy the super street sweeper sucker machine, and you decide in 10 years you don't need it, then you have this
that
money.
10 times fast.
Yeah, I'll definitely end up making a mistake, and it'll be recorded, so show up on YouTube or something.
Yeah,
But I need to, Jack,
Yeah, generally, if you're speaking of one specific thing, automobiles or whatever, anything that's mobile in a department, they have their own supervision with the grid that they go by, so that when they go before the council, they can say, well, we've had this for 3 years, and we're putting on 40,000 miles a year, and these cars usually go, whether it's a cruiser or a truck or whatever it might be, they've got it pretty close. So that by the time they really do need one, and sometimes it's usually before that, you know, they'd have something to go by and replace it. And it doesn't just apply to vehicles, it's going to apply to other things.
No, I was
he
using
just
that as a
pointed out.
hypothetical. That was just hypothetical.
Oh,
Right.
all right.
But Jack, I mean, I can understand, like in a condo association or a homeowners association, usually there would be a capital fund, maybe 2, and it's up to the board of trustees to make recommendations on how to use it, rather than having 50 different ones. But I think New Hampshire law and lack of trust and that combination kind of puts this in a position where you may not be able to have that general, we trust you capital reserve to be used by the.
Yeah, I just thought I'd ask the question.
Well, I mean, the thing, it would apply, for example, with your roads and sidewalks and such. I mean, you know, the town is growing, you're being built up, it's expanding, you've got new roads here and there, but you gotta keep an eye on the old business. So how long has that one been waiting? It's supposed to have its turn 5 years ago, that type of thing. Takes care of that. But you still, and the people have a hand on it as far as the vote. I don't imagine we have much more than $20,000 or $30,000 contingency fund, do we? That they don't
In the
even.
operating budget?
Yeah. I mean, you can fall back on that in the event you were shot on a.
Yeah,
on a-
well,
on
the unreserved general fund balance, if that's what I'm finally getting, is sort of the emergency if something blows up place that the town council can go.
Yeah,
The
and there's a-
900,000 you're talking about, though, I don't think that's the CIP.
No, it wasn't. I was
That's
just,
the
That's the water-
unreserved fund balance of the water,
Or the
to
fund,
use
yeah,
the
yeah.
same terms.
And then the council could only, in an emergency situation, like if the dam blew and suddenly we lost a whole street or something and we needed to rebuild it and it exceeded our funds, they still have to, there's a process to get approval from DRA and the budget committee. You hold a special hearing and stuff.
Right,
It's
and
not
there-
just, oh, let's use the fund balance to fix
And
that
there is
problem.
a separate water system CIP
Yes.
fund.
I shouldn't have used the water, because
No,
that
it's
wasn't a
okay.
good- that wasn't a good example.
not a bad
but
example.
I was
Everybody
talking-
has two funds, a CIP and
I think Amy's good.
And well, yeah, Linda, we haven't heard from you, and then Amy.
Well, I wanted to say that, you know, one of the things that, that this does is it allows the voters to have a voice. So that's kind of a big piece to it, I think, to having these funds like this. But also, maybe we can talk a little bit about how one would go about changing the purpose of an existing fund. Maybe that's something that you can
I mean,
explore.
well, you can do it through a vote at the town meeting. And I think we did that with the Aquifer Fund. We renamed it and it broadened its purpose to be public water supply, because then you can protect land for surface water, since we were looking at all these different surface water sources. But it's a town meeting vote in March now. And that's the time when they get established. The town meeting has to create them. The council just can't create a new one, or the budget committee can. Amy?
I thought maybe I'd try to relate it back to the earlier thing where we were talking about when Matt was here and the encumbered and non-encumbered and all of that stuff. And my impression is that while perhaps the town doesn't need, 28 or 30 or 37 CIPs, there has been some effort lately to pare that down. Some of them have been zeroed out, and I think we're getting a handle on that. But the other thing may be, based on what Brian said, is that it's an encumbrance for the money for a specific purpose. So in essence, a CIP, if I understand it correctly, is kind of an open purchase order. It encumbers that money and sets it aside for X purpose or Y purpose, which is a little different than saying, okay, well, we've got $3 million in one big old CIP fund. In essence, is kind of what happens here when they're doing encumbrances, so that it's tied up for a certain purpose and comes out of we could use it for a rainy day, or if tax revenues are down or whatever, to subsidize payroll. And it's it's an earmarking thing, but yeah, better track of it needs to be kept, because otherwise that's when it gets out of control, is there's too many little piggy banks around.
And if I understood what Brian said, there's part of the operating budget with two pieces. One is what new funds go into the CIP.
Right.
Not spending it, just funding
Right.
it. And then there's going to be a CIP budget that says, here's the plan this year, we're going to be using so many of these portions of these CIP funds to go buy things.
And then keeping
that
up
would
with
then
it.
go into the encumbered portion of that CIP balance or something, if I'm understanding.
It's a projection.
It's
The
encumbered
council could
with an
decide to spend
encumbrance.
all the capital reserve funds in 1 year if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
There's no limitation on the expenditure from it.
Right, but that would have to be part of some CIP-approved budget, or that's the town council can do that?
No, they can expend whatever level they want from a capital reserve. The only expenditure is the raising of the new money to go into it that's approved by us. And the goal of the CIP is that you put aside a relatively stable amount of money every year. And you know that 1 year you might have a road that would make sense to do the entire road. Well, we don't have the road in it anymore, so let me get rid of that example. You might decide to redo a baseball field and it's a $400,000 project, and it took you 6 years to save the money to do it. So instead of having a $600,000 increase in expenditures, you set aside, $75,000 a year or whatever. So the expenditures from the reserve funds are not in the budget. They're shown on the budget, but they don't have to be in there for them to happen.
So if I understand the downtown restoration project, that's not the downtown TIF, that concept from before was the town council motivated, based on that project, to use certain of the pockets of CIP funds to fund the downtown renovation?
Well, so the downtown renovation, which was majorly funded through the TIF, water, sewer, state and federal funds, did also have a separate capital reserve fund that was a very small portion of the overall expenditures. And some of that was called like the Main Street or Riverfront account was some of those stuff, and there was a Main Street account, but it wasn't, I'm thinking it was like $20,000, and it did the Pocket Park, the park by Rivermore, the old town hall park.
But the town council nonetheless had
It's
the
the
ability
yes,
to
expend
go
that
into
money.
water and sewer and grants, et cetera. to
For
do
that purpose. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Jack?
I think the mentality was, after a while, when there were certain capital reserve funds, that something come along where someone found out they didn't have the money, and no matter how demanding it was, they'd say, well, let's do what they did. We got a capital reserve fund. Next thing you know, we were inundated with capital reserve funds that went. The most prominent ones would be vehicles, would be roads and sidewalks, and you just mentioned that they haven't been of late with the roads, and just go out and look around, because I, for one, can vouch for the fact that the roads are looking every bit as good as they've been given attention, which is nothing. So while it's very important to have your roads to be good, for your shock absorbers and everything else, and your sidewalks too, there's other places where it's just being whimsy, because you think you should have it. But and it should be regulated, and it should be by the, I think by the the department that's getting the benefit of it, so they can operate more efficiently, excuse me. That's gonna help them, but it isn't every little thing that we need to buy something that we have to say, let's get a CIP, But it seemed as though it came full circle recently when they said clean them all out. And I can tell you right now, there'll be some yelling in future town meetings about what happened to the CIP.
So are we ready to move on? Sorry.
I'm also,
Okay. All right, so update from CIP committee. Judy emailed me, and Roseanne, if I'm correct, I think she said they set a deadline for the departments to submit their capital CIP requests of either June 15th or July 15th. And I'm sorry, I can't remember, but it doesn't really matter for our purposes. The point is, they're starting their process a little bit earlier this year, and they met last week. So that's the update. Sorry, Judy, that I couldn't remember. I wrote it down. I didn't bring it with me. All right, April 9th minutes, which were emailed out to us and written up by Drew. Thank you, Drew, for doing that. Would someone like to make a motion regarding the April 9th minutes? To accept them, yeah. Sorry. I thought
Make a
Jeff-
motion I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for the Budget Committee, April 9th, 2012.
Thank you, Amy. Is there a second?
Second.
Russ? Any revisions or discussion? I like them nice, succinct, to the point, representing the votes, so.
Looks like it was a short meeting.
Well, yeah. I kept it extremely concise or terse, depending on your perspective.
Terse, laconic, and to the point.
Well, we're all volunteers here, and the minutes have to be out in 5 days, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to write down every word that everyone says.
We laughed, we
I
cried, we were
apologies.
moved.
Yeah,
No, not at all.
right.
This is fine.
All right, all those in favor? Or unless you had a change to it?
No, I was just gonna ask, in future, are we gonna have them, is Ellen gonna take the minutes?
I believe so. That's what I was informed.
Thank you.
She could do that from the, watching the meeting.
So whatever, you can come or you can take it off, whatever's easiest for you. It doesn't matter to me.
No disrespect to who took the minutes.
Oh, Drew was not volunteering for more than that night, so.
As soon as we're done with this vote, I'll do a hip hip hooray for Ellen.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries
I'll
9,
abstain, I wasn't here.
8 to 0 to 1, all right. Rewrite that. All right, any other business?
A thank you to Ellen for being our recording secretary.
Okay.
I have the utmost confidence in your abilities. Believe me, if I can do it, anyone can.
All right, so,
Just to pursue before we get to the next meeting, is there something we can do, since it doesn't seem to have been done yet, that one pager of issues, are we allowed to share with each other? Here are the 15 things I've heard about that would be nice to have on one page, piece of paper to have somebody fill in, like what's the revenue gap, what's the expense gap, what are the...
I don't think we can do that electronically, because that becomes a meeting, and then it's not posted, and the public doesn't have the right to participate. So, but I'd be happy to collect that stuff, so if you independently want to email me, and I can collect it and send it out to the group and Matt at the same time, that's the way to do it without violating the right to know law. And then, you can't have contemporaneous communication purposefully amongst the committee to bypass the meeting requirement.
Okay, is that a task where independently we should in the next week or two
Yeah,
send you?
send me a list of whatever kind of things you'd like to have an update on from Matt or Joan, and I'll put it together and I'll indicate who asked the question, that way it's clear for everybody. Not that, I don't really care who asked the question, but that way the public knows and understands.
And Matt certainly seemed open to that.
Yep. All right, so, would we like to meet in June and get an update from Joan at that point, and a brief, maybe we'll have a version of Matt's snapshot, as I called it, or whatever?
That'd be great.
Okay. I don't think I brought my calendar. Does someone have a calendar?
Usually
Do
Monday.
Mondays work?
Monday's fine for my schedule.
As long as it's not,
And we need to be after like the 10th or 11th because of their ability to produce reports.
The 11th is the first Monday, second Monday.
yeah, I can't have it on the third Monday because I have a conflicting board.
So June 11th, do you want to give that a shot?
They won't, I don't think they'll be able to get us the reports before that meeting. Because it just takes, it takes 10 days to close out a month, do the entry and clean up and
Russ, is
stuff.
that the 18th?
I have board meetings third Monday of the month, a different.
What if we
board.
just went like that Thursday? Just, I'm just wondering, it would be after the council meeting, and most of our work would have been consummated
Flag
by
Day.
then.
Ooh, that's a,
Oh, it's up to you guys.
School board meeting.
How about Tuesday the 19th?
The council meeting's the 13th, you said?
It's always Wednesday, so I don't have a calendar, so.
It's the first and second,
No.
third Wednesday, so it wouldn't be the 13th.
It seems to me,
13th isn't a council meeting, it's the walkthrough with the PD, it's these budget walkthroughs,
Oh, yeah, that's
department
right.
things, whatever.
Yeah, ours is first and third.
so it seems to me it would be helpful to have it after the council meeting on the 20th, because otherwise we're gonna be talking about stuff that they might then make another
When's the
decision about on the 20th, so could we meet after the 20th?
That would be Thursday, the 21st.
I
No,
can't-
that's
I
school
can't
board,
meet
that
that-
won't
I
work.
can't
Or
meet
the
that night.
following Monday, the 25th?
Well, let's do the 25th. I mean, Matt will have a pretty darn good sense of
Yeah.
everything at that point.
Yeah, by then it'll be
Yeah.
pretty
Pretty
much
close
the
to
end
the
of
end
the
of
year.
fiscal year.
well, and I thought,
Yeah.
He's sweating bullets.
We'll be throwing Hail Marys by then.
right, and I thought that the theory, and maybe it was nice to start to see stuff come out during the month to us.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he'll send it, yeah, I'll send it out if I
If
get
Matt's
it.
sending you the package as a distribution to the budget committee, then we should get the package when the board gets the package, which should be about the 13th.
It'll be about the week before, so we'd have a
And then
chance.
have a week or so to take a look at it, to see if we, that'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, so 6:25.
6:30?
Talking day at a time.
No.
Yeah, that's 6:30.
6:30 PM, okay.
And that's
So
June what?
we'll be meeting at June 25th at 6:30 PM.
You like that better?
Just send out a reminder.
Yes, no, don't worry. Was that yours?
Oh.
I thought it was like one of those freebies from a. Let's see.
We'll probably usually have-
All right, I think that's all. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? June 25th. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody.